What would you do if you found a letter in your mailbox revealing your deepest and darkest secrets? For nearly 2 decades, the small town of Circleville, Ohio, became a living nightmare. An anonymous writer terrorized residents with poison pen letters containing impossible details about their private lives, ultimately leading to death, neighbors conspiring against one another, and the possibility that the justice system destroyed an entirely innocent man. You're watching Shady Sketches, the Circleville Letters. Hey there, I'm your host, Miles Harker. What you're about to see and hear will make you question every neighbor on your street, because you never know which one of them is plotting your death, all while giving you that friendly wave on your morning run. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't face this nightmare alone. And now come, let me take you to Ohio. Our today's story begins in 1976 in Circleville, Ohio, a quiet, all-American town of 11,000 people, 25 miles south of Columbus. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where secrets were hard to keep, and where nothing really exciting ever happened. A paradise on earth for anyone seeking quiet, serene life. That all changed when elementary school bus driver Mary Gillespie found a strange letter in her mailbox. It accused her of having an affair with the local school superintendent Gordon Massey, an accusation she vehemently denied. The correspondence was printed in block letters and postmarked from Columbus with no return address. Eerily, the author claimed to know intimate details about Mary's family life and daily routine that seemed impossible for a stranger to know. Within 8 days, Mary received another letter with a bolder, more aggressive tone. The writer began threatening not only Mary and her husband Ron, but also their children. He then posted signs along Mary's bus route, many of which made offensive and explicit references to the Gillespie's young daughter. Shortly thereafter, her husband Ron received his own correspondence. The writer told him to control his wife or face the consequences. In another letter, he claimed he would kill Ron unless he told the school board about his wife's supposed affair. One message read, "You have had 2 weeks and done nothing. Make her admit the truth. If not, I will broadcast it on posters, signs, and billboards." Soon, other residents began receiving their own anonymous letters postmarked from Columbus, targeting the town's most guarded secrets. Affairs, financial problems, family disputes, nothing was off limits. The writer displayed uncanny knowledge about the people of Circleville and seemed determined to expose every secret of this quiet, rural community. The heavy use of block printing made handwriting analysis nearly impossible. The police started tapping phones and watching houses, even working with the postal service, but the investigation produced no answers. Mary suspected fellow bus driver David Longbury, whom she had previously rejected romantically and who still acted resentfully toward her. Desperate for help, she and her husband Ron confided in 3 people they trusted most: Ron's sister Karen Sue, her husband Paul Freshour, and Paul's sister. Paul Freshour decided to take action. He wrote letters to David Longbury, threatening to expose him. The plan seemed to work as the harassment stopped for several weeks, but the relief would be tragically short-lived. In August 1977, Mary took a much-needed vacation to Florida. While she was away, Ron stayed home alone with their children. On the evening of August 19, he received a phone call from the alleged writer, and after hanging up, he told his children he finally knew who he was. He then grabbed his gun, got into his pickup truck, and drove off into the night. Within an hour, Ron Gillespie was dead. His truck was found crashed into a tree along State Route 674. Investigators learned that he had fired at least 1 shot from his gun before crashing, but the reason for the shooting remains mystery to this day. The anonymous writer had threatened Ron's life multiple times in those menacing letters. That night, one way or another, those threats became reality. Paul Freshour believed Ron was murdered and pushed the police to investigate, but Sheriff Dwight Ratcliffe ruled the death an accident, claiming Ron had lost control while driving drunk. An autopsy showed his blood alcohol level at 0.16, twice the legal limit. However, friends and family were shocked as he was not known to be a drinker and had left the house sober that fateful night. Terror gripped the town of Circleville like a stranglehold. With one man already dead and the anonymous writer still at large, everyone wondered the same chilling question: who would be next? Soon after, several people received messages stating that Sheriff Ratcliffe had covered up the true circumstances of Ron's death because he was running for president of the National Sheriff's Association, and such an unsolved case might ruin his chances of being elected. Then, another revelation surfaced. Mary and Gordon Massey acknowledged having a relationship, though they claimed it didn't start until after the harassment began. This admission cast a long shadow over the official version of events and called into question both the investigation and Mary's earlier denials. The anonymous author continued with his threats against Mary and her children over the next few years, but the police remained unable to track him down. Then, in February 1983, he devised a deadly new plan. While driving her school bus one day, Mary saw a sign along her route with an obscene message about her 12-year-old daughter. Furious, she stopped the vehicle and approached the sign, but luckily paused before touching it when she noticed something odd. Upon closer inspection, she discovered a booby trap with a small pistol rigged to fire if the sign was removed. In narrowly escaping death, Mary provided police with the clue they needed to begin unraveling the mystery. Despite an amateurish attempt to remove the serial number, lab tests revealed that the gun belonged to Paul Freshour, who was at the moment going through a bitter divorce with Ron's sister, Karen Sue. Paul confirmed the gun was his, but claimed it had been stolen weeks before, though he had never reported it missing, leaving his story without any supporting evidence. Making matters worse, his estranged wife told investigators that Paul was the real author of the letters. She claimed he had grown furious with Mary after Ron's death, blaming her affair with Gordon Massey for the entire tragedy. According to her, she had even found several of the letters inside their house. Yet Mary couldn't believe the good-hearted Paul could be responsible and still suspected her fellow bus driver David Longbury, whom she thought was angry over her past rejection. More importantly, there was an eyewitness. 20 minutes before Mary found the booby trap, another bus driver had seen a suspicious man standing next to a yellow El Camino at the same location. The physical description of this man didn't match Paul Freshour. It actually matched the new boyfriend of his bitter ex-wife. Despite these questions, law enforcement moved forward against Paul. On February 25, 1983, Sheriff Ratcliffe asked him to provide a handwriting sample and take a polygraph test, which he failed. Shortly thereafter, he was arrested. On October 24, 1983, Paul went on trial for the attempted murder of Mary Gillespie. Though never formally charged with writing the letters, they became crucial to the prosecution's case. Built entirely on circumstantial evidence, their strategy relied on three key witnesses. First, a handwriting expert took the stand, testifying that after careful analysis, Paul was indeed the anonymous writer. Then came Mary herself, who admitted that her opinion had changed. She now believed Paul was responsible, influenced by a visit from Karen Sue, who had shared her own dark suspicions about her husband. And finally, Paul's boss testified that he had been absent from work on the day the deadly booby trap was discovered. In the end, even a second handwriting expert, originally a witness for the defense, agreed the handwriting must have been Paul's. Flipping a witness was a stunning win for the prosecution. But still, they had no fingerprints, no solid connection to the letters, no physical evidence. The defense had compelling arguments and Paul had an alibi for most of the day, but in the end, he was convicted by the jury and sentenced to 7 to 24 years. He was sent to Lima Correctional Institution and the case seemed closed, but it wasn't. While Paul was behind bars, the anonymous mail continued. Hundreds of pieces postmarked from Columbus kept flooding Circleville. Even Paul himself received notes from the writer who seemed determined to keep him imprisoned. One of them read, "When we set him up good." At this point, Paul was sure the author was his bitter ex-wife, Karen Sue. She had lost her home and custody of their daughters after the divorce and would get it all back if Paul went to prison. She was the first one to link him to the letters, yet she never showed the police any of them. But the sheriff kept insisting Paul was responsible, even after the prison warden stated they were keeping him in solitary confinement. In December 1990, Paul became eligible for parole but was denied due to the continuing letter harassment, even though he couldn't possibly be responsible. He was finally paroled in May 1994 after serving over a decade. The Circleville letters stopped around the same time, and this would be used by both supporters and detractors to argue their cases. After his release, Paul Freshour began to suspect that Karen Sue had instructed their son Mark to steal Paul's gun and orchestrate the entire booby trap incident back in 1983. However, he never publicly accused his son, prioritizing his role as a family man above all else. In a tragic turn of events, Mark took his own life in 2002. While some believed he couldn't bear the weight of his guilt, Karen Sue maintained that he suffered from depression and that his death was simply another devastating tragedy in their family story. A new theory surfaced in 1999 when David Longbury, the bus driver Mary had originally suspected of writing the letters, became a fugitive after committing a serious crime involving a child. He died while evading capture. This development led some to speculate that the Circleville letters case might actually involve two separate perpetrators, with Longbury as the original author and Karen Sue later continuing the harassment campaign to frame her husband. Paul continued pressing investigators to reopen the case and even reached out to the FBI, but his efforts proved fruitless. He passed away in 2012, never seeing the resolution he had fought for. In 2021, forensic document expert Beverly East conducted an independent analysis of the anonymous mail and concluded that Paul was indeed the perpetrator, noting the unique formation of the lowercase g. Furthermore, investigators had later discovered Paul's fingerprints on some of the letters postmarked while he was incarcerated. One theory claimed he mass-produced them in advance and had someone else send them while he was behind bars, but this was never proven. Almost 50 years later, and we're still asking, who terrorized Circleville? Was an innocent man framed by a sheriff desperately needing a suspect? Or did betrayal come from within his own home? Why did the letters stop when he walked free? Whose finger was on Ron's gun? And what role did Mary's affair with Gordon Massey play in this web of lies? In a small Ohio town where secrets were supposed to be safe, someone proved that privacy was just an illusion, and that sometimes monsters don't hide under beds, but behind postage stamps. Who do you believe was the writer? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories that will make your head spin, hit like and subscribe. This was Shady Sketches. See you at the next creepy case.